amplified. It's on your screen. You are seeing 14-year-olds become millionaires from creating content. You are seeing people becoming influencers. Others are, posting that they're going on holidays. It's just a lot. It's happening, and you've got a lot of people that are infected because of, the age gap relationships. And then from that, what happens? Are you going to complete school now, or you're going to complete school in 10 years? Which means you're delaying yourself from your progress that you would be doing. And people are running towards the sound of the gun. I'm like, normally you run the other way.
You moved out of Google too early.
I thought you ran the other way.
Welcome to Crossing the Line, a weekly podcast show in which we interview interesting people about their lives and about the issues facing our country, our continent, and the world. I want to thank MobiLearn for providing the technical support to make this podcast possible. My guest today is a young woman who is doing amazing work in empowering young people through her educational programs and through her work as the head of an organization called We Matter, and her name is Nolethu Ndude. Welcome, Nolethu.
Thank you so much for having me.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Okay, so this is just going to be a easy conversation. I like to start off by just kind of talking a little bit about we grew up, we went to school, all those kind of things.
Okay.
So yeah, maybe let's start there.
Where did I grow up? Whenever I hear this question and people from the neighborhood where I grew up, they always say the dusty streets of Nolethu. So I'm one of those people too. I grew up in Nolethu, born that side as well. Moved when I was 7 at the time, or just before 7, and moved to Monte Vista, where I still reside. That is.
Okay. But so you grew up in a family where both your parents, your mother Hilda, your father Alpheus, were political activists. And obviously that had some kind of impact on you also in forming the person you became.
It did. It made me a very resilient person, and to view the world from a completely different lens. In the sense of very broad, very lateral, and not linear. And in saying all of that, it also exposed me to activism, to working with people, empowering people, because our house was a buzz. There were people at the house every day, every weekend. So that also just shaped the kind of person that I am today, that is of giving nature of oneself and helping and uplifting others.
And of course, that giving nature also meant that your mom was giving so much of herself to the world, basically, that she was never really around to look after you guys. And I think your dad probably played more of a role in terms of being there for you. But he was also busy.
Remembering my upbringing and my childhood, my dad was actually incarcerated when I was growing up. If I remember correctly from the story, he got incarcerated before I was born. So while my mom was still pregnant with me, my dad was incarcerated. And we would have regular month-end visits to Paulsmoor prison, because that's where he was. And I don't really recall him. I didn't know that he was my dad. For me, I always say when I tell the story, it was monthly excursions with a whole group of people, other families of activists who had family members that were incarcerated at Paulsmoor, where it became a community. So that being said, with my mother also not really being around and my father not being there, it meant that we leaned very much into community and the people around us in the neighborhood that we were staying in Egu. And whenever my mom was not around, there were ladies. It almost feels like it was an instantaneous thing that would happen. It's like, okay, my mom is traveling. We already know that there is a lady coming through that is going to be like, we're looking after you guys. Your mom's going to be gone for a week, or your mom's going to be gone for 2 weeks. So we here, we taking over, we running things, or a family member will come and join and look after us. So that is literally was my upbringing, myself and
And
my
so you're almost
siblings.
like the embodiment of that slogan, it takes a village to raise a child.
Yes, as much as it's such a taboo word these days. I mean, using the term as it takes a village, because people do not really understand the essence of it takes a village, because it really did. It took a village to raise 5 kids with your husband being incarcerated and you also being a political activist. You know, you're never home. Half of the time you are getting detained and we don't even know where you are. We hearing from people that, okay, this is what happened, because back then there were no cell phones, and if you got a landline, it was one of those, you know, luxuries. So not every household had a landline. So it was maybe one household in the entire street that had a landline, and that would be used as the common line for everyone in the street that could get calls on certain times. So yeah, it was literally, it was the slogan of it took a village.
I think it's important for me to start there, just to kind of remind people also about where we came from. Sorry, where we came from as a country. But maybe let's talk a little bit about your adult life. You've done quite a few different jobs, interesting jobs, working, for instance, also the company that I was involved in, ESP Africa. I don't think our kind of times overlapped, but I was involved for a short while with ESP. The question that I have is like, what lessons did you take out of all of those different experiences? You worked in Mary Stopes, etc. What lessons did you take out of all of those different experiences that you're kind of applying in the work that you're currently doing?
The one thing that I took was, we are not islands. You're not a one-man island, and whatever you do, you won't succeed at it alone. And with all the teams that I worked with at both ESP Africa, Carol Bauer Productions, and as well as Marie Stopes, I learned that when one drops the ball, it's not a matter of, because you were the one that was still busy running with it, that now, you know, you succeed. So as the team, it means that when one drops the ball, the whole team is going to be held accountable. So it taught me accountability and making sure that whatever I do, if someone is lacking in the team that I'm in, I must lend a hand and ask them, where can I assist? Where are you falling short? In order for in order for there to be a successful outcome in whatever it is. So that was one of the things that I learned, and it's one of the things that I also impart in what I'm currently doing. And it's also one of my mom's favorite sayings is that when you rise, you've always got to remember the people beneath you, and you also got to rise with them. So that is also one of the things that I always take with me, and I always remember, and I'm a strong believer in that as well.
So maybe let's talk about the work that you're doing. I mean, when did you start the foundation? How did you start? Not the foundation. When did you start it? We Matter. Why did you start it?
Why I started We Matter was as a young girl growing up in Gugulethu, and also still having family that live out there, and seeing the difference once one moved to the suburbs of the kind of information that is available. That was number one. Because the second I got to the suburb, I got exposed to a completely different side of an upbringing, in the sense of open and transparent communication between child and parent. Whereas where I come from, there is no transparent communication between child and parent. You know, your parents do not want to know about your sex life, or if you are dating, or anything that is happening to you. Whereas my neighbors and my friends, they would openly go even to their fathers and say, oh, I need pads. And I'd be like, oh, like just becomes part of the family grocery list, add pads for Sarah because now, she's on her period. So that was one of the reasons why I started We Matter, for open dialogue between parents and children and an understanding what happens to the changes in our bodies over the years, from infant to being a toddler to being an adolescent to being a teen to being an adult and so on. The changes that go through and the stages of all of that, and who do we have to speak to as, young, black colored, kids in communities like the ones that we come from. And do we have that open dialogue with our parents? So it became a pathway of having that conversation. And also having worked for one of the leading termination, clinics in the country, it also was one of the things of, that it should be the very, very last leg in, the many series that is available when it comes to contraceptives, when it comes to condoms. Being able to go for an abortion should be the very, very last resort. So that was the reason why We Matter started, to have the conversations that are very difficult and nobody wants to have.
But so, whose role is it to educate young people about sex and reproduction? Is the responsibility of family, teachers, churches, government, all of the above?
It's all of the above. It's not one particular person that has this role. And very often we always say government is letting us down, or our schools are letting our kids down. Whereas, so one of the major reasons why We Matter started is understanding family dynamics. And that, there are some families where you've got the parent that leaves home at 5 a.m. in the morning and comes back at 7 p.m. That is, literally not there when the child wakes up and goes to school, and not there when the child comes home. So there's really no valuable time for conversations like the ones that I'm referring to. So in that instance, one would need for the school to come in and have that conversation, for the churches to come in and have that conversations, for government to come in and have those conversations through the programs at schools and through life orientation education at school, so that parents are getting the assistance of how to communicate with their children.
But of course, the communities that you're targeting are also very conservative communities. And so I suppose that also plays a role in terms of how prepared parents are to share with their children, and how much they're prepared to share with them.
Very true.
I remember growing up, it was a case of don't do this, don't do that, and that's how you lived your life, or girls don't do this, boys are allowed to do certain things, girls are not allowed to do it.
And that is one of the reasons, is because our communities are very conservative, and the world is no longer as conservative as it once was. Raising a teenager in 2025 is completely different to raising a teenager in 1976 or in 1980 or in 1985. So times have changed so much so that now kids are being raised by social media. Kids are being raised by what they watch on television. So if you're not having those conversations with your kids, a complete stranger on the other end of a telephone, because of social media, WhatsApp and Facebook and all these things, is having that conversation with your child, or exposing them to things that you don't want them to be exposed to. So it's very important for these conversations to happen, because the statistics is that at 10, most of the kids are already exposed to porn from a cell phone, from a gadget that they are using, whether it be at the iPad, the laptop, the cell phone. They're already being exposed to porn. So not having those conversations, someone else is having those conversations with your child, and they're not necessarily the right conversations or the way in which you would want those conversations to go.
Yeah. So how does one counter that?
It's, as much as it sounds like a redundant thing to say. It's through communication. You need
And education, I
yes,
suppose.
it's communication and education, because the leading teen death, especially when it comes to boys currently in South Africa, is through suicide and depression, because of the pressures that young people are faced with right now. And I know a lot of adults that I have conversations with about this. They're like, what pressures are you talking about? What stress could a 14-year-old probably have that could lead them to wanting to end their lives? I'm like, you won't understand it, but if I am 14 or I'm 18 and my group of friends have certain things that I don't have, I am ostracized from the very group that has taken me in and included me. Now I'm being teased. I'm becoming the laughing stock, whether I'm dating, about my sexuality, about whatever it is that, they are choosing to make fun of me about. That's what's going to happen. So with that being said, I cannot come to you and have that conversation because we don't have open communication. And when it comes to sexuality, you don't understand it. You think that being gay is just nonsense, that no one is born gay and that you're going to grow out of it. We don't understand their point of view when it comes to the youth of today. So that's why conversation and communication is extremely important, because when you communicate, and when you listen, because you need to communicate and listen and not judge. So when that happens, you get to hear what they are saying, what your child is saying to you, without you judging them, without you, casting them out. And with all of that, then your child gets to not really expose, but kind of express how they feel about certain things to you as a parent or as a guardian or caregiver.
So maybe take us through how you do the work that you do. I mean, what tools do you use? What is I know you do workshops and stuff. We can talk about where you do, but maybe, what is it that you do? How do you typically educate young people?
Well, typically educating young people, we go about, there's topics in which we cover, right? Most of them are aligned with the life orientation syllabus of, Department of Education. And we cover consent. And a lot of people don't understand consent and what it means to consent and the age of consent in South Africa, because we are so used to these intergenerational relationships where a 18-year-old is dating a 40-year-old, or 16-year-old is dating a 22-year-old. And understanding consent makes you better understand what you get yourself into in terms of the people you choose to date, the relationship. We discuss mental health. We talk about HIV and AIDS and all the other STIs. And I always tell them that growing up, we had the face of AIDS and HIV, which I don't know if you remember, we had Nkosi Johnson. He was the face of HIV and AIDS for my generation while we were growing up. That literally stopped you in your tracks for ever, having sex, let alone unprotected sex. And then this generation doesn't really have that. They've got people that they are seeing that are living with HIV and AIDS, that are healthy, that are bouncing, that, are eating their medication and living and doing fabulous and wonderful things with their lives. Not saying that that's a bad thing, but with that as the face of HIV and AIDS, and you've got all these wonderful, medications that are coming up, you don't really think of HIV and AIDS as an STI that, could be life-threatening anymore. So it's just one of those, it's like getting a cold. You take medication, you get better, and you carry on with life. So those are the kind of, conversations we have. Is like, as much as all this medication is there, it's available, and everything is available for you at government clinics, you need to understand the implications, how it attacks your immune system, and that there are other STIs out there apart from HIV and AIDS that are currently, very, they're taking over publicly. Even when you check on social media, the Department of Health in Gauteng had a whole big campaign on their Instagram, where they were saying that, you know, when it comes to gonorrhea and chlamydia and genital warts, you know, people need to be very aware of that, because it's just a lot. It's happening, and you've got a lot of people that are infected because of, you know, the age gap relationships, or the blessee relationships, which are still happening. And those are the conversations we have. And consent, understanding the age of consent in South Africa is 16. So you engaging in a relationship, with a sexual relationship with someone younger than 16, it's, you know, it's illegal. And especially if you are someone that is 18 and older. And that's one thing that people don't understand, because the one thing that we always get is, but my parents are not the same age. My dad is 10 years older than my mom. And I was like, that was a different time, and it was at a completely different era. It's not like now, where the age is one of the reasons we have teenage pregnancy that is so prevalent. I'm like, when your mother and your father got married, teenage pregnancy was not as prevalent as it is right now. And it is, I mean, we've got new births in the country like every single day. I mean, during COVID, even we had, what was it, 890 something young girls that fell pregnant during lockdown era. And it was like, how did that happen? How did they happen? Because we locked down. So I was like, sometimes you don't need to look very far. Everything happens within house, because statutory rape, who else is around the house? You know? So most families cover things up because of shame, and that is where
How do you identify where you need to work? Which communities you need to target?
It's through my conversations and working with other organizations, and also through the Department of Education. I will ask, you know, because some schools have programs and other schools don't have programs already. So the schools that don't have the programs are the ones I then go to and have a program with those schools. And that is how we then get the schools that we work with. And it's really dire, if I am to say, the situations in most of the neighborhoods that we go to. And because the last time we were in one of the schools in Mitchell's Plain, and there was a shootout while we were at the school, and you could just hear, and then they were like, oh no, this is like a normal occurrence in the neighborhood, where you just have guns popping off. And people are running towards the sound of the gun. I'm like, normally you run the other way.
You moved out of Gugulethu too early.
You know, like, I thought you ran the other way. Well, in Cooks, there were no guns at the time. It was mostly, you know, pangas and knives, and there were no guns. So we saw the bloodshed, but we just didn't hear the sound of popping guns.
So these schools that you work with, do you find it difficult to convince them that the service that you provide is an important service?
It's not the schools that have difficulty with the convincing, because the teachers we deal with in the schools are life orientation teachers. Okay. So they already know, because of the number of pregnancies that they would experience in their school, or already in terms of gang violence, and already be able to pinpoint those that are, you know, already using drugs or part of gangs. So the teachers are not the ones that require the convincing. It's mostly the parents when it comes to the community and engagements with parents and children, because a lot of parents feel that having the kind of conversations we have with their kids, they feel that it's teaching them and encouraging them on having, you know, sex at an early age. And that's not the case, because sexual reproductive health and rights does not only focus on intercourse, it is a holistic education on the sexual reproductive system as a whole, because there is way more that attacks the body than just people having sex. You've got fibroids, you've got things like cervical cancer that are happening that you need to educate young girls about, so that they're aware of what ages to start getting tested, mammograms for breast cancer, finding out if those kind of things are hereditary or not. Because, and even for boys, testing for prostate cancer, and also understanding that boys also get breast cancer because you've got breast tissue. So it's not just about, guys, use condoms, use contraceptives, we're encouraging you, go out there and have sex. No, it's educated information that informs you what are the cons of having a baby at a young age, and you're not working, you're still a teenager, you haven't even finished with school, what that does to your body. Is that a good thing that that you're putting your body through? Because even when you are of age of having kids, your body does go through a lot of changes when one is pregnant. So when you are young and you're falling pregnant and you've got no support system, and it's just your hormones as well, because you're a teenager. So there's just a lot that is happening. So you need someone to talk to, you need someone to educate you, so that you can understand all of those things, and why waiting is always better than doing something because everyone else is doing it, and because, hey, why not, I'm gonna lose it anyway, so I might as well do it now, because that's what everyone else is doing.
I suppose peer pressure is a big factor, especially among young people.
It is, and like I said, now it's more amplified. It's on your screen. You are seeing 14-year-olds become millionaires from creating content. You are seeing people becoming influencers. Others are, posting that they're going on holidays with their boyfriends, or their boyfriends are buying them cell phones. So there's a lot of pressure. There is a lot of pressure, and a lot of peer pressure, especially for the youth today, compared to when I was growing up. I didn't feel it as much because we didn't have cell phones. We were not exposed to YouTube content. We were not seeing, millionaires at the age of, at my age, we're all 14, and now this one is a millionaire overnight because of the content they created. And even when it comes to bullying now, it's even amplified. It's on social media. So everything now is amplified, and the pressure is felt even more if you don't have what everyone else is having, or if you're not doing what everyone else is doing.
But so you're working in an environment where people are poor, people their priorities might be stacked in such a way that this kind of service wouldn't be seen as being important, because you first have to pay the rent, put food on the table, etc. Even things like sport and music and so is not seen as being important. How do you convince people that the work that you do is important?
I always say that if you're thinking about it on a monetary scale, where you are as a parent, in 10 years, your child is probably out of school, or they are teenagers. Where would you like to see them, right? Because as you are in the communities that we're at, you already are seeing 14-year-olds that become parents. I'm talking about boys and girls, I don't exclude, because just because the girl falls pregnant, it's not through immaculate conception. So that is what's happening at 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. There is excessive drinking. There's some that are excelling at school, some are not excelling at school. There are those that are dropping out, and then those that, are finishing school. So as a parent, when you hear of someone coming and saying, listen, we're here to sit and have a conversation with your kids during school hours, or we having, networking sessions after school hours, where we are talking about, sexual reproductive health. We are talking about mental health awareness and understanding what is mental health. And we do youth empowerment, and we talk about, financial literacy. And you're like, what is all of that? It's like, it's all the things that are connected. because everyone sees them as different moving pieces, but they're all connected. Because if you're having sex and you're falling pregnant, that means then that your future might not be as bright as you would hope it to be, because majority of the time you don't have someone to assist you at home to look after your child while you go back to school. So therefore you get forced to drop out of school and look after your child, and then you need to what? You need to go find a job. And where you're going to find a job when you haven't even completed matric? It's a very tough place even for a graduate to find work. So the next best thing is for you to become a cashier. It's for you to become a waitress. It's for you to become a club hostess, whichever one it is that you can, find work. Or you become a baker, you become an entrepreneur, you start baking. So not quite sure how you'll be thinking. And then from that, what happens? Are you going to complete school now, or are you going to complete school in 10 years? Which means you're delaying yourself from your progress that you would be doing. It's not about, me and my friends all finish school at the same time. Because at 18, you're deemed as one who leaves high school, and then you start university up until 25, depending on your degree or your diploma. That's roughly the age where you finish at uni, and then you start a job. So you delay your process when you're having, sex before time and you're having kids, and then you are also partaking in drug and alcohol abuse. You are in a gang, or you're staying out all night because you're partying with your friends. So all of that is what I then sit and I have conversations with the parents. I'm like, I'm not saying that I'm a miracle worker, that I will swish a wand and your kid will become exactly what you want them to be. But giving them the information so that they are aware of what is there, where they can go for help when they need the help, what clinics to go to when they need the services that they need. And in the same breath, we also engage with the Department of Health in saying, majority of the youth don't want to come to clinics because of how, nurses treat them when they come there. So that's why, you don't see they're coming in there for the services. So having youth-friendly zones, is something that, is introduced by government, and even some other organizations have youth-friendly clinic services for those that need it. I know Desmond Tutu has a mobile clinic unit, and I know that the Soul City has youth zone in different government clinic hubs around the city. And then with that, they go in and they get the service that they need without being judged as to why I'm here. What am I coming here to do? Because the reason why a lot of people don't like going to government clinics, especially the youth, is from the second you enter, you're already getting cross-questioned by the security guard as to why are you here? Which department are you going to? You're dressed in your school uniform. Or even if you're not in your school uniform, what are you here to do? And then now, from getting questioned by the security guard, I still need to go to the reception. The receptionist there is still going to scream across, the way in a mic, or something that, this one is going to that department. Then when you get to that department, you're going to have a nurse that's going to ridicule you because you're in your school uniform and you're coming here to get medication for, to treat an STI or whatever you're there to do. And that's not fair. So that's why these conversations need to happen, so that we can stop that and that the youth feel comfortable enough to go to government hospitals and go for the services that they need.
So Nolethu, how do you judge the success or otherwise of the work that you do?
Well, it goes according to how many people we've educated, in the sense that we've got, currently we have 23,000 youth that we've educated and are also part of our foot soldiers in teaching others about what we do. And from that, we have about, I think it was 800 young girls that took on long-term contraceptive. Long-term contraceptive is your implant that is for 3 years, or your 10-year one, which is, your copper IUD, which is 5 to 10 years. So those long-term contraceptives means that at least they are protected from falling pregnant within 3 years or within 10 years of them being part of the program, and even after. So knowing that information and having that information then gives them the decision that when I want to have a child, it will be when I'm this age or when I'm ready, as opposed to now when I'm still busy at school and at university. And it's also through, those that we refer for mental health issues when it comes to the department and other organizations that we work with. So that's how we are currently using our success matrix, if you want to use. But yeah, it's not for the faint heart.
So tell me about your foot soldiers, because I was going to ask you about why don't you use reverse peer pressure?
Okay.
Young people might not want to listen to you because you're still young, but in their eyes you're old. But they will listen to people who are of the same age group.
We do have foot soldiers that we have left in the schools that we work in, that are, whenever there's new information, they share it in the schools. And also when it comes to our WhatsApp channels and our social media, we also post there, so they are also able to get the information and spread it. And when we have our conferences, and not really a conference, when we have our gathering, we have them lead the sessions, where I'll come in and I'll have my say, and then they, as in the youth and the foot soldiers, will sit and discuss the topics that are in place, and I will just facilitate, but the information comes from them. We make sure that, no cell phones, don't go Google, but just tell us what it is that you feel about X and Y, so that we know what's happening.
Okay. And do you work outside of Cape Town, only in Cape Town?
Right now we are based within, Cape Town. We do have connections outside of Cape Town, but that will require...
Do you have people who do similar work elsewhere?
Yes, so we do want to branch out, and this information also go through to, all the provinces and all the languages, and which is also what we are currently incorporating right now. Is translating all our information so that it's available in all the languages that we have in South Africa. And,
So what have been the biggest challenges that you faced in setting up this organization, and that you still currently...
Biggest challenge that one faces is always going to be, funding. You're funding a new organization. Well, 2021, we are still fairly new. But... and you don't really know if we know what we're doing or we don't know what we're doing. And also when you get funders that will come through and they kind of like want you to start in the end and work into the beginning, because the end, fits more their end game than what you're trying to do. And then, it becomes kind of a conflict of interest, in a sense, where you need to go through the education process before I can have you take up contraceptives, that you need to understand what's happening to your body, because should anything happen to the kids that we work with, we are the ones that are accountable for whatever it is. So we need to take them through the proper channels and the proper education. That's always one of the biggest challenges, is finding funders or partners that actually understand why we start where we start, and want to work with us, and go through the process the way in which the program is set up.
Where do you get most of your funding from?
We don't really have a funder right now, so most of the money that we have will be me having my side gigs where I'm working, and then I will put that into the organization so that I'm able to pay the people that require, the payments for the programs to run. Other than that, we are looking for funders. We are looking for, for sponsors, so that this work can go far and help way more people than what we're currently working with.
Do you think that government and corporates understand the work that you do?
Not to the level that we would like them to, because for corporates, it's mainly a numbers game. It's okay, I'm going to give you X amount of money to educate people about sex. What is that going to do for me? But it's like, no, we're not educating them about sex. It's, sexual reproductive health education, mental health awareness, understanding all of that, going through the processes so that they can become, sustainable adults that will be, high functioning people in the workplace when it's time for them to do so. So you may not feel like you are investing into anyone that will be of benefit to you right now, but in 5 years, 10 years, they will be of benefit to you because they will be working, they will be entrepreneurs, that they will then, start helping the economy of South Africa. So whatever we teach them, they will sow back through the economy and becoming future leaders.
So what can be done to help educate government and corporates a bit more about the work that you're doing?
I would say the one way that would best help government and corporates is to actually come out and witness and see what it is we do on the ground. Because looking at spreadsheets, you will never truly understand the work that we do. Because it's far beyond numbers and words. If you are going to be investing money into something, come out, look what it is that we're doing so that you can better understand, because there was a young boy in one of the schools we went to who was literally crying during one of our lessons, and we were talking about consent, and we were talking about mental health and how that affects you in work at school, with the pressure of also maintaining your marks, and how to work through when you're having panic attacks and when you're in a stress. And then this young fellow came through after the lesson and said, "Ma'am, may I speak to you?" So I was like, "Sure, no problem." And then he said that at home he is being abused by his mother, and the mother lives with a boyfriend. The mother has a new child with the boyfriend. So now he is from a previous relationship. So he feels like he's not wanted because he's not part of this particular family that his mother has created with her new partner. And now when she's stressed because of whatever the partner is saying to her, she takes it out on him. And he literally showed me his torso. He had scratch marks and bruises. And I'm like, by law, I can't just walk away because of the conversation that we're having and because of what my organization does. I need to get you help. I need to get you help in the sense of we need to call social workers so that they can become part and parcel of this, and you get the help that you need, and counseling for your mom and her partner. And this is always where it is the most trickiest, is when they come to you and they tell you about their problems, and then when you, not that it's a solution, but when you offer assistance that has to do with social workers and getting parents into trouble, it then was like, "No, ma'am, it's okay, I don't need your help anymore." It's like, no, it's not that I'm trying to get you into trouble or trying to get your parents into trouble, but it's for you to be in a better mental state so that you can also be able to complete school. So those are the kinds of things that I'm saying that the corporate and government need to come and understand, that what we're doing, it's not just educating about sex. It's deeper. It's speaking to people on a human basis and hearing what they have to say and actually listening, because majority of the time no one pays attention, no one is listening to the kids that we work with. No one listens, no one takes the time, because that's also one of the things they say. They're like, "Ma'am, you're the only person that speaks to us like we teenage." Because most of the time our teachers are swearing at us, our parents don't take us seriously. And every adult that we tell that we stress, they ask you, "What's stressing you?" And for us, there's so much happening, and to speak to someone that understands is a refreshing light.
Yeah. People who want to support you, whether it's just kind of ordinary people who want to kind of donate to you, or corporates, where can they learn more about you and about the work that you're doing?
On our website, www.wematter.org, and that is We Matter as MATTAH, We Matter. And, our social media handles, we are on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, even on TikTok, we're on all the social media. And on Instagram, it's We Matter, all small cases, MATTAH _, and you'll find us, and that is all our socials. It's MATTAH _ for Instagram and Twitter. And for Facebook, it's a capital W and a capital M, but still the same spelling, WEMATTAH _.
So why do you spell your name like that?
Everyone else has the ER, and I was like, you know what? When you say We Matter, you don't really hear that it's an ER at the end. It's like, you're breathing through it because we matter.
Yeah, I've actually got a lot more questions, but I think I'm kind of running out of time. So I just want to ask you, so young people who might be watching this and might feel inspired to follow in your footsteps, what kind of message do you have for them?
My footsteps. Oh no, they mustn't follow my footsteps. But the message is very simple. There's no better time than right now. There's so much more that is available. As much as it might not feel or seem like there is, but there's way more available for youth at the current moment, and they just need to seize the moment. If you want to start a business, there's funding available for youth to start a business. Wake up before you're 35. That's one thing I want to say, because once you reach 35, there's no more funding available for you. And that is always the one thing I always say is like, growing up, you didn't really think you needed to be an entrepreneur. You didn't need to start a business. You were okay with working. Up until you're like, you know what, I'm now at 33 and this whole funding process can take time. So, do it and start whatever business it is that you want to start. If you want to be a content creator, start creating your content. But, don't be pressured in looking at other people's content because they are doing the same thing that you want to do. I mean, there are so many organizations that do what I do. And, it's not that I look to them and be like, oh, what are they doing that, I'm not doing? And how can I get to be on that same wavelength? Because every day is a process, it's an education, and it's a journey. And, we're all here to do something wonderful before we go to the upper room.
I know I said that was my last question, but I lied. The work that you do seems to be very stressful. So what do you do to relax?
Apart from speaking to my own therapist, I go to the beach. Yes. No, I do encourage, especially from the work that I do. It is very stressful. I'm not gonna lie. You can literally carry other people's problems when you do what I do. And you also need someone to speak to so that you are not constantly overwhelmed by the problems that you are faced with, and working with the kids that I work with. And also in the sense of you got to learn not to want to cry every time you hear the stories that they tell you, because it's not going to help them, your tears, so you just got to be like, okay, how can we help? Let's see what we can do. You just need to be empathetic and compassionate, and lots and lots of time at the beach. That's why I always got to live near the ocean. There's nothing like crashing of the waves and a sea breeze and just relaxing and watching the infinity, and to relax you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so we've come to the end of this episode. I want to thank Mobilearn once again for providing the technical support, to the technical staff behind the scene who make me look good. I want to encourage you to follow us on our socials. Like We Matter, we also everywhere. TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, etc. And if you have ideas of people that we should be inviting into the studio, please let us know. And if you have ideas on how we can improve the show, make it a bit better, please also let us know. My name is Rylan Fisher, and it's been a pleasure hosting Crossing the Line. Until we meet again, goodbye.